I often wondered how it was that the German people allowed the Nazis to do what they did. At least they had the semblance of an excuse that they didn't know. This is the first televised, live-streamed genocide in history. You have no excuse.
Jews like myself want to sit there alongside others to show that Jewish people know what genocide is like. They know why you have to stand up to oppose genocide. And it should be the obligation of every citizen, including every Jew, to look squarely at what's happening to the Palestinians and then oppose it because they're Jews.
What prompted me to do this, and I must say it's out of character, my politics isn't usually direct action of any kind or civil disobedience. What prompted me is first and foremost the scale of the genocide, what was being done by the State of Israel, apparently in my name.
Will you also explain what role Britain has played in overflying Gaza with surveillance aircraft?
I am very comfortable with the support that we give to Israel, and I won't comment on operational issues.
It would be fair to say the UK has been at war alongside Israel with the Palestinians through supply of intelligence, supply of weaponry. So, and I think the people of this country just simply don't know the depths of the involvement of the British state.
Some of it is personal. I think the Prime Minister is deeply committed to the Zionist cause.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water? Sakir?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation.
And it seems that the government is genuinely committed to the State of Israel, plus it is the policy of the United States, and the government is also genuinely committed not to let a cigarette paper come between their policy and that of the United States on issues of such significance as Israel.
The Prime Minister has condemned pro-Palestinian activists who sparked a serious security alert when they broke into RAF Brize Norton and vandalised military aircraft. Sir Keir Starmer said the act of vandalism was disgraceful.
We do understand now that a full security review is underway, and that's because last night 2 activists from the group Palestine Action managed to breach the perimeter fence here, use electric scooters to get up close to 2 of these planes, where they then sprayed red paint into their engines in an effort to disable them. Not only that, Lucrezia, they then managed to leave the airbase undetected.
There comes a point when, in order to pursue justice, truth, you have to act in a strong way. So Palestine Action took a similar move, that in order to actually combat the arms supply to the Israeli state, the complicity of the British government in the constant oppression of the Palestinians over the years, that you had to take direct action.
Well, I've been publicly out, as it were, as a supporter of Palestine and critic of Israel now for rather over 20 years. There are some members of my family that no longer talk to me. They don't respond to my emails. I even have relatives in Israel who are not very happy with me. But actually, so what? You know, I'm sorry that they feel like that. I would love to be in touch with them. But I'm also part of a larger family of people who I admire and love, who I take a principled stand on this, as well as being Jewish.
I think we're heading for the shutdown of democratic rights in this country. I think the right to protest is what's given people the rights and freedoms that we have today. It's been incredibly important in our history, people fighting for a decent working time, decent wages, the rights for women to have the vote, and the idea that we should be shutting down the possibility of protest against injustice, against, in this case, a genocide. If you can't protest against a genocide, democracy is finished.
I mean, if you break into somewhere, if I break into where you live and I damage the house, I'll get done for whatever it is, trespass, all of that. Of course there's laws. But there wasn't a law that meant that me putting up a banner is a terrorist offence.
Now they're saying that no marches may be banned if they occur repeatedly in the same area. Now, there's no point in having a national march in London if it isn't in the central area. So this gives them a complete, if they wish to, and I think they will, the right to say you can have one march, you can have a march in, let's say, January, but then you can't have any other marches indefinitely. And there are no protest movements that have ever grown and had an effect based on one march.
There's no doubt that we're shifting towards a much more authoritarian way of attempting to govern the country.
My final right in my life is always the right to say no. And I insist on that right, and I will fight it. I will fight it for the rest of my life to the best of my ability.
My fear is that if it isn't overturned, we're heading to severe oppression towards an authoritarian state, which will then be taken up if we shift in the next election towards Reform UK, an extreme right-wing government. They will add repression on repression.
Feel outrage, vote genociders out at every level of election, join the Palestinian movement, carry out as best you can a boycott, divestment, sanctions against Israel, and link up as part of the worldwide movement of resistance.
I think it's unlikely as a result of these protests that I'll go to prison. If I do go to prison, I will have paid a high price. But I've weighed up the risks. I think that's unlikely. But it has to be a risk I'm willing to pay, and you have to understand that when you weigh up the risks, face them squarely, understand what the risks are, and then still do it, because it's right.